moving on with SCRA, and I'm in subpart 2, limitations on terms of consumer credit extended to service members and dependents. And coverage includes covered borrowers, which are persons who are regular or reserve members of the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, or Coast Guard, and do not specify a period of 30 days or less. 30 days or less, or a member serving on active guard or reserve duty. The service member's spouse or child, and an individual for whom the service member provided more than one half of the support for the 180 days preceding the extension of credit. Meaning mom, if you supported mom for 6 months prior to being extended credit. Now, and identification of covered borrowers. The creditor must provide each potential applicant with a covered borrower identification statement prior to becoming obligated on a covered consumer credit transaction. If the applicant signs a statement indicating that he or she is a covered borrower, the regulation will apply. If not, the regulation does not apply unless the creditor receives documentation otherwise indicating that the borrower is a covered borrower. The creditor has the option of corroborating the borrower's statement by requesting a current military leave and earning statement, requesting a military ID, and checking the borrower's status on the designated Department of Defense website. So now that we're beyond the coverage section, no, we're not a covered creditor. As a person engaged in the business of extending consumer credit of the type that is covered by this regulation. And for covered consumer credit is payday loans, vehicle title loans, tax refund anticipation loans, closed-end payday loans or closed-end loans with a term of 91 days or less for $2,000 or less, in which a covered borrower receives funds from a creditor and is charged interest or a fee, and contemporaneously with the receipt of funds either. Provides a check to the creditor who agrees not to deposit the check for more than 1 day, or authorizes the creditor to initiate a debit for debit to the borrower's account for more than 1 day. Vehicle title loans. Closed-end credit with a term of 181 days or less. Secured by the title of a motor vehicle that is registered for use on the road, owned by the borrower other than the purchase money loan, and tax refund anticipation loans, closed-end credit, in which the borrower expressly grants the creditor the right to receive all or part of the borrower's income tax refund, or expressly agrees to repay the loan with the proceeds of the borrower's refund. Requirements. Military annual percentage rate. Definition. The cost of consumer credit expressed as an annual percentage rate calculated and disclosed as the APR under Reg Z includes interest, fees, credit service charges, credit renewal charges, credit insurance premiums, fees for debit cancellation, and debt suspension contracting fees for debt-related ancillary products sold in conjunction with the credit transaction. MAPR, again, military annual percentage rate, does not include fees and charges imposed for default or late payments, taxes or fees prescribed by law to pay public officials for determining the existence of or for perfecting, releasing, or satisfying security interest, taxes required for recording the security, or taxes return preparation fees associated with a tax refund loan. Restrictions. Creditors may require a covered borrower to pay an MAPR in excess of 31% on covered consumer credit. An MAPR must be agreed to by the terms of the promissory note. The MAPR must be authorized by applicable state and federal law and may not be specifically prohibited by this regulation. Disclosures are also a requirement. The following must be disclosed to a covered borrower or dependent before the consummation of the consumer credit transaction. That is I, the MAPR and total amount of all charges included in MAPR. And we could turn to the next page. 2. All disclosures required by Reg Z. 3. A clear description of the borrower's payment obligation. 4. A mandated statement that federal law provides service members with certain legal protections and that financial and legal assistance may be available. And there's B, method of disclosure. All disclosures must be in writing before consummation and in a form the consumer can keep. The MAPR, the description of the payment, obligation, and mandated disclosures of the legal rights of the borrower must be given orally to the borrower before consummation. Renewals. New disclosures must be given only when the transaction is considered a new transaction, requiring disclosures under Reg Z. Preemption. I think that's another requirement that we're about to discuss. This law preempts any inconsistent state laws unless the law provides greater protection to the borrower. Another requirement is limitations. The creditor and any assignee may not extend covered consumer credit to a covered borrower if A. It is a renewal, refinance, or consolidation of consumer credit extended by the same creditor unless the new transaction results in more favorable terms to the covered borrower, such as a lower MAPR. This restriction does not apply to the renewal, extension, or refinance of a loan extended by the same creditor to the covered borrower when the consumer was not a covered borrower at the time of the original transaction. The covered borrower is required to waive the right to legal recourse under any applicable provision of the state or federal law. The creditor requires the borrower to submit to arbitration or imposes other onerous legal notice provisions in the case of a dispute. The borrower or the creditor demands unreasonable notice from the borrower as a condition of legal action. Okay, so these are limitations. To credit that can be extended by a creditor. So it can't be done if the creditor demands unreasonable notice from a borrower as a condition of legal action. Credit can't be extended if the creditor uses a check or other method of access to a deposit, savings, or other financial account, except that when the loan has an MAPR that is in compliance with this regulation, the creditor may require an EFT to repay the loan, require direct deposit of the consumer salary as a condition for the credit, or the creditor may retake a security interest in funds deposited with the creditor. F. The creditor requires as a condition of the extension of the credit that the borrower establish an allotment to repay the obligation. And lastly, credit can't be extended if the borrower is prohibited from prepaying the loan or is charged a penalty for prepaying all or part of consumer credit. Liability, subpart 3, civil and criminal. The knowing violation of either the SDRA or the John Warner National Defense Authorization Act is a misdemeanor and will be subject to fines and imprisonment of up to 1 year or both. Any credit that fails to comply with this regulation is void from the inception. FIRA penalties are those usual figures of $7,500 per day, $37,500 for unsafe, unsound practices or a pattern of misconduct that causes a little loss, and then $1.375 million for reckless knowing commitment of fraud. I have to turn this off. We're done.